write a non-fiction essay, in the non-fiction essay, there are some words that you are to use. First of all, we have genre. What type of text is this? Is it an essay or an article, a speech, letter to the editor, or an interview? But you will mostly encounter an article. Then we have the topic. When we are dealing with non-fiction, we call it a topic, not a theme, because it is the matter dealt with or the subject discussed. We have a writer. We call it a writer in non-fiction, not the author, as we do in literature. The sender. The sender is often the writer, but sometimes there is a hidden sender, for instance, when it comes to advertising or something else, a political debate or something. Argument. In order to persuade the reader about something, the writer must use valid arguments, obviously. Find the arguments that the writer uses. Intention. Well, does he or she wants to argue or convince or discuss or educate, or what does he or she wants us to do? Type of medium. Well, where does the text appear? In what kind of newspaper or tabloid or magazine? Is it a left wing or a right wing? Is there a political agenda? What can you find? And Google is your friend here. Language is a rather vast term because there are so many things that has to do with the language. Rhetorical devices, is it an informal text or a formal text? Is it ironic? What kind of things can you find when it comes to language? The message, is there a clear message here or not? Now, as with the fiction essay, it is divided into three parts, a three-part essay where you must have focus on attitude in all of these texts, or assignments. So in this case, you have to focus on the attitude to the walls surrounding Johannesburg. And some of the things that he touches upon are apartheid, the walls, and people feeling safe. So apartheid means segregation. Walls indicate segregation. So where are we today in this matter? We can all agree upon the fact that despite apartheid being abolished back in 1994, Johannesburg is not a city where people live equally and peacefully. But what can really be done? Should the walls be torn down, or should they be embraced as a reminder of the hardships the city has been through? This is the topic the writer Frank Leuenberg aims to discuss in his article in Celebration of Walls. So you have introduced the topic and the writer and what he's talking about, but perhaps there's something else that he's actually debating here. So when you go through this essay, or when you have to structure it, sometimes those who are excellent at taking one point and debating it with another, jumping back and forth in the text, you are entitled to do it whatever you want, whatever way you feel is the best. But for some of you, going through it chronologically might be a good idea. So this is what I've done here to help you structure it in a way that is makes sense. So it is clear from the start that Leuenberg does not support the former apartheid system, but that it has indisputably granted the white population a form of safety. That is what he's saying. He needs to say that, well, when he grew up, they did feel safe, but it was not, a good sense of safety. It was an unrealistic and a fake form of safety. We felt safe because the black people were not allowed to be there at night. Certainly not after the set hour. We felt safe because the streets were continuously patrolled. We felt safe because we lived in an exclusive island of unreality. So he meets this demand. And remember, when you introduce a quote, if it's a full sentence, you have what we call a colon here. If it's an incomplete sentence, it's only a comma that you use. And then when the page reference, you write page 1, and then if there are several lines that you quote from, you write LL. Then you move on to comment on this, because that is important. Do not use quotes unless you comment on them. In this quote, Liebenberg uses the rhetorical device anaphora 3 times. We felt, we felt, we felt. Because he wants to put emphasis on the fact that the only reason why they have felt safe during apartheid is because the black population had no rights, which obviously is not fair. Therefore, the safety is based on false premises. When apartheid is replaced with walls, it seems to be a step backwards to many people, and he compares this with the walls erected in Mexico City and Sao Paulo. However, he insists that it is far better than a false sense of safety, as the black population is now free. He meets the surrounding arguments of apparently sorry about this, that apartheid was terrible in every way. But he's also saying that it was apartheid that made Johannesburg feel like a North American or European city, a place from which the white folk had come. In other words, walls are a far better option than apartheid. No one can argue against that. So, but he also has to say, well, we can't go back to apartheid. So we have erected these walls. But when it comes to removing the walls, Liebenberg points out that this is an unrealistic version of the future. This he needs to argue for, because no one can understand why it is amazing to live in a city full of walls, dividing people. And here his main argument is that there are too many problems to deal with in order for that to happen. Obviously, having such a large gap between rich and poor, as well as white and black, generate inequality. Thus, Liebenberg believes the only way to overcome this is to provide jobs and opportunity for the huge black population living in poverty, which is not done in a day, obviously. So he says, until then, he states that they must make the best of it and embrace the walls. Its walls are a signal of change in South Africa and a sign of a healthy and real city. Now, this is a turn, okay? He's saying that Johannesburg is a healthy and real city. And it is interesting because how can one even begin to say that Johannesburg is a healthy city? So perhaps we should look to the type of medium or time published in order to reveal his true intentions. It was published as a short piece in South Africa during the time of the 2010 World Cup, where many of the games took place in Johannesburg. So now we kind of sense that it is not only Liebenberg who wants to tell us something positive about Johannesburg. It indicates the sender is not Liebenberg himself, but the city of Johannesburg, whose aim is to convince visitors that Johannesburg is a great city. The walls of Johannesburg are a symbol that has become a part of the city's personality and a fundamental part of the design and creation of Johannesburg today as it evolves. He's being very positive here, and here he makes use of the nouns personality, design, and creation, and thereby the language creates a positive connotation of a modern democratic city. Evidently, no one wants to portray a city welcoming thousands of tourists as one of the most dangerous cities in the world. So here we kind of sense that there is a hidden sender. It's not just Leuenberg, perhaps he's feeling this way too, but it's perhaps not a coincidence that it is published during the World Cup. Hence the message is clear. Johannesburg does not deny its dark past, but today the walls stand proud as a token of things that once were. Here we connect to the introduction of discussing whether these walls are a good or a bad thing. But whether or not the city is safe, that is something Liebenberg fails to clarify, or as he puts it, security has been appropriately privatized, which indicates that if you're rich, you can feel safe. Alas, if you're poor, you cannot. Okay, so this is where you try to connect to the introduction, but also trying to sense other things that you can read behind the lines, that you can pull out. And remember, read through, find your errors, look at the things that I've written to you and change it, correct your errors, and make sure that there's a clear structure, that you have included the words and that they are used correctly. Okay, good luck.